Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast, the show where we bring the best in the business, agents who are setting the standard and delivering top-tier results. Today's guest is a real estate powerhouse with a background in global finance and project management, where she managed multi-million-dollar projects before making the leap into real estate. Since then, she's closed over 70 transactions, $65 million in sales, specializing in relocation buyers in high-demand communities. Her analytical mindset, negotiation skills, and deep market expertise set her apart in Northeast Florida. She's also not only fluent in English, German, and Russian, ensuring she can serve a diverse clientele. And when she's not making deals happen, you'll find her boating, traveling, or at the beach with her 3 boys. Named one of Jacksonville Real Producers' top 500 agents for 2025. She's here to share her journey, strategies, and insights. Let's welcome Veronica Wilen to the show.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Nice to be here.
Yes, welcome. There was something in there I actually... I have ChatGPT create this for me. These intros. I've been doing it recently, and I take your bio and what you sent me, and I say, okay, I need this short little intro.
Yeah.
And it creates. So that first line threw me off there because I actually didn't read it before I read it. So
totally
apologize for that, but I am really interested in your journey because I think as I was talking pre-show, working on a book. Everyone comes from a different background.
Yeah.
And what you're been, for a good part of your life, your career, the project management and stuff, and how you've actually taken those skills to actually excel in the real estate space. Yeah. But let's kick off a little bit.
Sure.
You're born in Kazakhstan. Yes, I actually was pronouncing it earlier properly.
A former Soviet Union, that's correct.
Yes, but you went to Germany. So how old were you there? And then
I was 8.
8 years old. How were you able to get from there to Germany? What was going on?
So our ancestors are Germans. So we kind of long story short, our ancestors moved from Germany to Russia. My parents moved from Russia to Kazakhstan because of climate reasons. And that's where I was born. And then my dad always wanted to go back to Germany because that's where our roots were from. Our great-grandparents were speaking German. We celebrated German traditions, German culture, German meals. We were cooking German meals, nothing like Russians. The Russians were actually calling us Germans. So we never really fit in, and that's why we decided to go back to Germany.
So you're very young at this time. I don't want to. I'm not going to guess your age or go over your age or ask you your age, but I would imagine is this early '90 type time period when the Soviet Union
late '80s, actually 87, yeah.
Yeah, they basically because otherwise it would have been hard to do that. To leave? Did they have control like that?
It was very difficult, actually. My dad fought for 3 or 4 years to get out of the country. So it was pretty tough, but eventually they, persistence, right?
Right.
We will talk about this.
And things started to ease up.
They just let them go because he had 4 kids, family, and he just never gave up. And we ended up going to, we had actually, my mom's cousin was in Germany. So by invitation, we were able to go to Germany in '88.
Now, you said Northeast Germany, right? So you're still under the Soviet bloc.
Just before the wall came down. Yeah.
So what do you remember about that time? Because I think I'm very curious about these things because I think Americans take a lot for granted for what we have, and I think it's a great museum. Have you ever been in D.C., the Spy Museum in Washington, D.C.?
I actually wanted to go to D.C. this year with my kids.
You've got to go.
Haven't been yet.
You've got to go. Take them to the Spy Museum because they actually have a whole section where you've the wall, and it's basically. Explaining all these guys, all these people that sacrificed their lives and families and so forth, trying to get over the wall, or just the whole communication, because half the family was on one side of the wall and half the family on the other side of the wall, that kind of thing. And what was it like being on one side versus the other?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I don't have anybody in my family who actually had to climb the wall, but a lot of our friends and family members decided to move as soon as the wall came down. They moved to West Germany.
Right.
We did not. My parents, for whatever reason, decided to stay on the east side, and we've lived there for 19 years.
Interesting.
So for a pretty long time. I grew up in Germany. Went to elementary school, middle school, high school, and I even studied for 5 years at University of Potsdam before I came here.
So what kind, because obviously there's two different economic systems going there. What was it? What do you remember as a young person experiencing that and living 19 years in that area? Because I imagine things were changing fairly rapidly from an economic standpoint.
Absolutely. I mean, it was, first of all, it was like a black and white world. Like there was not much color. Center block, big buildings, like everybody was living in an apartment, no homes, no lush green landscaping like Florida. It was pretty black and white. And even when you go to a store, everything is just plain. Like we didn't have any exotic fruits. I had my first banana and my first orange like in the early 90s.
Wow.
Yeah. And so there was not much luxury, right? Like a very, very simple lifestyle, very sort of not poor, but very simple. And on the west side of Germany, like once the wall came down, like all the products started coming into the east side. And as a child, I just remember like seeing the first Coke, right? Or the first bananas and oranges and, the candy. Like I remember.
Was McDonald's already over there?
At some point, yeah.
When did McDonald's? I think I
don't know
remember.
what's
I think McDonald's got into in the Moscow. I think in the Gorbachev period.
I don't know
think.
exactly the year, but eventually everything started coming over to the east side, of course, and now it's all one country, and
right.
obviously it's all the same.
Well, this is the interesting. Obviously, we're going to talk about the topic of real estate, but like you said, people don't realize in this communist oppression, you were given an apartment. You didn't have this house, a choice of, hey, do I want a backyard? And, that you didn't have those options, right? That's what I find interesting. I think a lot of people don't realize, the difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. We built our first house in 95. It was a beautiful house, though, I have to say. Like a 2-story house with a basement. And it was gorgeous. My dad built a beautiful house for us.
All right. So you're a young person. You go to University of Potsdam.
Yeah.
What are you studying there? What did you visualize yourself doing?
I wanted to be a lot of different things. At some point, I wanted to be a dentist, and then I wanted to be a psychologist because I had the most amazing teacher in psychology when I was in high school. So I studied psychology at University of Potsdam for about 5 years. And then I also worked for 6 months full-time in 2 different psychiatries for children and teenagers. And I just realized it's a very, very tough job.
Yeah.
Lots of respect of the medical, workers who work there. I'm still interested in psychology. I still can see myself. I mean, I would have seen myself doing it, but on the other hand, I was always interested in business and having my own business at some point. So I ended up going for an MBA. So a business degree.
I always thought when I look back, I probably should have gone the psychology route. I just find people interesting, which is probably why I have this passion for this podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see where dealing with, like I said, well, in any way, when you're dealing with people's hardships or, it's heart wrenching.
It's super difficult. And I've seen or heard some stories. I did some psychological testing with kids and just hearing some of the stories firsthand of the kids, what they went through and how difficult some people's life is definitely eye-opening. And you appreciate your life a lot more.
Yeah. I'm going to just take a short break here, half a second. I want to talk about Remy Graphics here makes these great mugs. You have a hot pink one in your bag there. They make laser gifts. They're local. This is just one of many. RemyGraphics.com. RemyGraphics.com. Go there. They will make one-offs. As I tell everyone to listen to the show, they will make one-offs. So if you have a house closing and you want to put John and Sally, welcome to Jacksonville, she'll make those for you.
Awesome. Great. Great idea.
There. When does the opportunity to come to the States happen for you?
So my parents actually decided to move to Canada. They were not too happy in Germany for some reason, without going into details. They just wanted a fresh start, I guess. And it was a lot easier to immigrate to Canada than to the United States. So in 2002, while I was still in the midst of my studies, they decided to go to Canada. So it was my 3 siblings and my parents. So I was by myself in Germany, and I said, I'm going to stay. I'm going to finish my undergraduate degree before I follow you. So that was the original plan. I was going to go to Canada to follow my family. But then after visiting them a few times during the winter, during Christmas, I realized that that's not really the place I want to be.
What's the climate difference between Germany and Canada? Is there...
Germany is cold. It's like New York style weather. Like you
Okay.
have sometimes a little bit of snow, but usually it's like just misty and rainy and cold and miserable. And obviously in the spring and summer it can be very nice and beautiful. You have the four seasons, but in Canada that's a different type of winter, right?
You're what we would consider. Well, I mean, I grew up in Massachusetts, so I know, you know, the season standpoint. But yeah, in summer, basically, it's not really until early June. I mean,
That's
it's
right.
really Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really your summer.
That's
It's,
right.
you feel the temperature difference change almost on
Yeah.
those dates. Yeah.
Same thing with Germany, I would say. You have a lot of rain in the spring season and the fall, right? But you have the four seasons, so a lot of people like
Right.
it, and I do like it too, but I prefer Florida weather.
Canada doesn't quite, well, in compared to Florida, they don't really get summer. It's summer, but it's like fall or an early spring. It's
Yeah.
there's not. I can imagine the season just being very short.
I like visiting them for 2 weeks in the winter, seeing the snow.
Yeah,
And then I'm happy to
have
come
that
back.
experience. Yeah, yeah. All right. So, what and how do you end up here in Jacksonville?
So I didn't have, a lot of money to just come here and study at one of the biggest universities, because obviously you need to have some funds to support yourself, not just pay for your tuition, but also like living expenses.
Okay.
I didn't know anybody in the U.S., but I wanted to be here and at least on the same continent like my parents, but not necessarily in Canada. So I decided actually to come here as an au pair,
Oh,
which is a foreign language nanny. And I lived with a family, a wealthy family in Lakeland, Florida. And they had some
when
German.
I was talking about Gogo Bethke before the show, that's
Yeah.
actually how she came over. She did the same thing.
Are you
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
I actually loved that experience. I want to say I picked the right family because they had only one daughter, and she was already 9. So I knew it was not going to be like a full-time, really like a super busy nanny job.
Right.
Because my ultimate goal was to study here. So I picked a family with one child, a little bit older, where I could take her to school and then have the time to study. And that's why I got accepted at Florida Southern College, and I went for my master in business administration, and I took some prerequisites, and I finished it in 2009.
So you changed from the psychology to now you're in business, and then you spend what now basically a dozen years or so or more in the banking world in project management. What is it about that I mean, something obviously clicks. You're good at it. What was it in that type of work that you enjoyed or just clicked with you?
I think I'm overall very organized, disciplined. I like to plan. I'm also creative. I like to put beautiful presentations together, I like beautiful material, right? So I think real estate and project management have a lot, even psychology, right, has a lot in common. It's not like
Yeah.
one field. Psychology you can use anywhere, wherever you work, right? Like
Right.
when you work with people, you need psychology. Project management, you can absolutely leverage in real estate because, I put listing presentations together. Like my stakeholders in project management jargon are my clients, right? So, and my average home sale was $1 million last year. So I deal with a lot of very professional people, and you need to know how to communicate. 95% of a project manager's job is communication. Like you need to put presentations together as part of, let's say, a status update or, how the project is doing.
Right.
But 95% of your job is to communicate to your stakeholders, to your clients, the status of, several key deliverables, just like in real estate, right? You need to communicate with your clients on how the process is coming along, like when you are buying or selling a house.
So if Corey asked you to stand up in front of the Engel Völkers First Coast team and explain your mindset that you go in, especially on a listing appointment, and I imagine even though if you got higher end clients or even just selling a $200,000 or $300,000 home, really anywhere in between. Just because they have $1 million home or plus doesn't mean they're organized or understand the importance of staging, or because I imagine you've, as any real estate agent, you've walked into homes and it's like you're like, oh my God, let me go get my overalls because we're gonna have to go to work in here and get this place positioned. But your mindset in your ability to walk into a situation and start to project manage it and so forth. How would you explain that to someone who doesn't come from your background, but is coming in the real estate, that having some sort of project management mindset or organization can really help you if you're able to walk in and be able to say, okay, here's our situation, and start project managing. Explain how would you express that to the team?
Preparation is always the key, right? Before let's say you're a junior agent and you want to go to listing, or you're invited to go to a listing presentation to win a listing. Several sellers actually are doing a lot of interviews these days where they interview different agents to see if those agents are the perfect agent for them to work with, right? So you need to prepare yourself. You need to have a solid plan in place, like a project manager. And, you can do it in writing, obviously. You can write up the different steps that you need to take, or you just, it comes natural to me because I've done it so many times.
Right.
You can just sometimes wing it, but overall I always prepare, at least in my mind, I prepare myself. You have to be on time, right?
Step number one.
Step number one, you have to be
Show
on time.
up on time.
Show up on time. Be prepared. Look decent, right? Like you have to obviously.
Like you're organized. Right?
I mean, so, yes,
I think to go into a presentation like that,
you have to be.
If you don't look organized and then trying to tell them to be organized, that's
absolutely
clash.
Even if the $1 million client, let's say, is not organized and as messy as as they can be, they still expect you to be organized. They still expect you to be on time, polished, right? You need to dress well. You need to have your fingernails clean, your hair washed.
Right.
And you need to be presentable. You need to be prepared. You need to have a plan in place. You have to have a notebook with a pen or your computer. You have to have your listing presentation with you. And you need to have a solid list of recommendations that you already can give them, and not just go to a listing appointment and start asking questions, right? You need to kind of provide value. Providing value is always very, very important. People, when they invite you to their house and they're taking their hour of their day to show you their house, you want to give them at least some pointers. Like, for example, depersonalize and declutter, like right before you start even thinking about listing your home.
So, well, I think the obvious, but we know not everyone does the obvious. You can do a lot of research on what's going on around the house. Like, hey, the sales in the neighborhood, this is what's going on, and all that kind of stuff. But when you walk into the house, that's the first time you open the door and walk in. Then you're like, okay, now we got this second project. Some, I imagine, are very great. You're like, oh my God, this is perfect. Don't do anything. Dust off the counter. We're ready to go. Others, are you able to now, with your experience in project management now, but now in real estate, to really immediately, in your head, like you said, okay, hold on a second, we need to declutter. We need to let's get you, stuff to storage. Let's do this. Are you able to kind of do that on your feet?
Yeah, I worked with professional stagers, or I still work with professional stagers. So I actually have one scheduled for tomorrow where we're going to go to a seller's house, and we're going to spend a whole hour walking one room after another. And the professional stager is going to actually point out a few things that she would improve.
You've been to the house already and already scouted it out. Okay.
Yeah, it's already under contract.
Okay.
So I have already the listing, but I agreed with the sellers that I will bring in a professional stager in. We will do a free consultation. I will pay for it. My stager is going to go with me from room to room, point out certain things that she would improve, and then after the consultation, she's going to provide a very detailed report. It's like a 10-page document that lists exactly what her recommendations are. So it's not coming from me; it's coming from a professional stager.
Well, let's dig into that a little bit, because I think staging has gotten very expensive. So, and as actually some real estate agents have actually started their own staging company, which I think is just, bless them, good luck. But I do know other agents that I've had
Yeah.
on that actually just have their own stuff,
Yeah.
and they feel they're competent to stage a house, but it's become very expensive. What's been your experience in a sense of, coming in? Your average home sales is pretty high, much higher than the average agent, obviously. But whether it's a mid-range house at $300,000 to $500,000, $600,000, or the million plus, having that consultation and staging it in your success, as far as getting, obviously the goal is sell it more quickly, and obviously get the best price for your
Absolutely,
seller.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like to bring on my stager for a consultation, and then if I pay for the consultation, that's not a lot of money, but when you decide to actually stage a house, you have various options. You can partially stage a house where you just, let's say, do the main areas, living room, kitchen, entry, main entry, or you do the first floor versus you do the whole entire house. So she does provide you 3 different options with 3 different pricing options, and then the sellers usually pay for the staging. If the sellers have the budget and they decide to just, and I had sellers last year, they decided, well, let's do the whole entire house. Okay. So we did that. And
You took out all their stuff and brought in all new, or just kind of mix and match?
Vacant.
Okay.
And professional stagers don't usually like to mix their furniture and their accessories with somebody who actually lives in the house. So that's another very important point to mention, is that ideally the house needs to be vacant. If the house is not lived in with pets and kids and whatever, the stagers don't like to mix in, so they usually say
yeah, it's not a high success ratio that this furniture comes out on a good end.
I still bring the stager in to provide us the consultation report, because there's a lot of little things that we can actually do ourselves, and it doesn't cost us anything but the consultation fee that I'm paying.
Right.
So we can replace all towels with white towels. We remove all the bathroom rugs. We will, declutter and depersonalize the whole house and remove all the family pictures. So certain things like that, sellers and me, we can handle it, and without the stager involved, and save a lot of money.
Well, it brings up the important point, because you mentioned just a few moments ago how it's coming from the stager, because sometimes when it's coming from the agent, they're like, oh yeah, whatever. But now you have this credibility that, oh, this is a professional, this is what this person does.
That's what they do, yeah.
And they come in and say, hey, you need to remove all your towels and make them all white, put the color ones in the closet, and you can use those while you're living here, but don't use the white ones. Leave them hanging, right?
Yeah,
type
totally
of thing.
Right, yeah.
But I mean, what have you found as far as your the speed, selling the home in a more efficient time period, maybe getting multiple offers, but I think obviously what everyone's concerned with is getting the dollar amount that they want. If they go in there and say, hey, if you want that dollar amount, we need to have the staging consultation, because we need to make this place look like the $1 million that you want for your home.
Staging definitely helps. And again, if the home is vacant, super easy. If it's sometimes, everybody knows you can also virtually stage a house, which is another option.
Are you a fan of that?
I don't like it, but if there's no budget, if the seller doesn't want to pay and it's a vacant home, then absolutely, you do want to virtually at least stage it, because if you just post pictures that are just bare bones of rooms that have nothing in it, potential buyers cannot visualize what's going to look like. So I'd rather do virtual staging than no staging at all, right? And sometimes we even pitch in and pay for staging as realtors as well, like just to the main area, right? Front entry, living room, maybe like some bar stools around the kitchen, some, dishes or placemats on the countertops. So like minimal staging we can do ourselves as well.
So for a new agent who may be listening here, you just said sometimes you come out of your pocket for some minimal staging
if
type
you think
of things.
it's worth it, why
yeah.
not?
I mean, your success there and recommending that, say, you're going to turn the house over quicker, which is what you want to do. I mean, the faster you could sell a house, the faster you get paid,
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
So if you don't stage it, it's this blank, empty space, it may sit there for a little while, and you'd be amazed by just staging a little bit. All of a sudden, you get an offer the first weekend. That's what you want.
It definitely helps to stage a house, whether you do it the right way or yourself or virtually. You have to stage it. You need to make it presentable so that the buyers can see themselves living there, right? And you don't want to necessarily stage it the way how you would live in there, but you have to kind of like maintain a neutral perspective, a neutral view of from the eyes of the potential buyer. Like what would they like? And the stager knows it best how to stage it.
So you're having this successful career in banking, project management, and so forth. What gets your fancy about real estate? What gets you interested
So
in?
with real estate, I got my license in 2018 after I spent over a decade in global banking, working on multi-million-dollar projects, and I've done it very successfully, earning over six figures, great benefits. I always wanted to have my own business. I always wanted to work for myself, being more flexible, and take my business, to the next level. I'm all about growth. I always listen to different podcasts and different, all about mindset and growing and developing. Funny enough, I did the same thing in my projects as well. It was all about process improvement projects. How can I improve the processes in the banks, right? How can I just make them more efficient, more effective? So that was kind of like my history. And the same approach I take it in real estate as well. It's like, how can I improve? How can I be more efficient? How can I be more effective? How can I be a better realtor? And not necessarily comparing myself to other very experienced realtors, but I do follow other experienced realtors. I have lunches with them. I pick their brains. I learn from their experiences, best practices, right? And I love sharing my experience as well with more junior realtors. I have coffee and lunches with both ways, with more senior and more junior realtors. But I guess I lost the.
What came across you that real estate was your, to start digging into?
Why did I start in real estate? Yeah, so I always wanted to have my own business, and working with families, I thought was very rewarding.
Did you meet? Did you have a relationship with a real estate agent, or your own transaction, or what was it? It's like, hey, I want to dig into real estate. That might be my avenue.
It was actually a friend of mine from Germany who said, why don't you sell real estate in Florida? Florida is because they're coming from Germany, visiting me in Florida.
Right.
It's like, this is like paradise. Like, why are you not selling real estate? It's like, I don't know. I haven't even thought about it. So I kind of like started thinking about getting a license, and it was just like a no-brainer for me to once I started working with people, it was it didn't feel like work. It felt like a hobby, and it felt so easy and fun. I was touring homes. I love like, who does not like to look at homes?
Do you feel I'm going to use the word discipline of your previous career? The working in the banking and having, you got to show up to work. You have a project. It's got a due date. People have expectations for you. That when you walked into real estate, and of course it's your business. Of
course.
You are answering the clients, but a lot of times you have control, and you could tell them, I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know how good your business is going to be, but your discipline and so forth, that you coming from that corporate world, has really helped you excel in the real estate area.
I would definitely agree with that because, again, even though it feels like a hobby and fun, I take it very seriously because the families, the couples, the husband and wife, they're ultimately buying a $500,000, $750,000, $1 million home or more. That's the biggest investment in their life, right? You're dealing with a lot of money on the table. They're going to take it very seriously. They're not buying a purse or whatever, right? Or a pair of shoes. So you need to be professional. You need to be organized. You need to be prepared. You need to know your numbers. And you need to be there for them from the very beginning till the very end. And even after the closing, I'm in touch, with all my past clients.
A lot of people say, like what you just answered there, it's their biggest transaction, which I would agree for most people it is. But also, this is where they're going to live. This is where they're going to spend the majority of their time and family things happen
Creating
in the
beautiful
house.
family memories, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Where the kids will grow up.
I think that actually supersedes the actual financial transaction. That they do enjoy when they pull in the driveway. Yeah. They feel good every night coming home from work and that sort of thing.
And that's the beauty of that job, if you will, real estate career, is that you are helping families creating those memories, right? When they select the home, they're more likely to live in the house for at least 5 years, maybe sometimes 8 or 10 years. And their kids are growing up in that house. They're going to school, they're going to work, they're working from home sometimes. So they're creating those beautiful memories in that house. It's such a rewarding experience being part of it.
All right, so you decide to, hey, I want to dabble in real estate. So for the new agents that might be listening, or someone who might not even be licensed yet or getting their license, pre-licensed, how do you analyze, or how did you end up at your first brokerage? What made that choice for you? Or how did you make that choice?
I started with Remax, which was here right in Nocatee. Great team. They were local, and they were right there next to Publix, so it was very easy for me.
Nice retail front, which I hear there occasionally there's a walk-in.
Yes, exactly. So great location, and that's how I found them. And I did interview a few brokerages, and I picked them probably because of the brand. Everybody knows Remax.
Yeah.
And also because of the location. They were in Nocatee. I lived in Nocatee. I wanted to be in Nocatee, so I picked them. They were a little bit too expensive for me in terms of fees that they were charging. And, the split, the commission split. So I ended up going to Keller Williams. I was also at Red Zone Realty at some point, and then at EXP for 3 years before I joined Engel Völkers First Coast.
Oh, so you've danced around a little bit.
A little bit,
okay. So we had, because here's one of the topics, and I bring it up on every show. I feel that the choice of the brokerage makes or breaks a lot of agents. I'm not going to say all, a lot. Someone like you already had the discipline and your worldly experience, your corporate experience, and you were able to put a lot of the stuff that you were learning and stick it to the wall and know how you were going to do business. But not everybody's like that. I think so many agents fall out, and I think it's because their choice of that first brokerage was not a fit for them. They didn't do enough research to realize, because I think, would you agree, every agent does their business differently?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody comes from a different background. Everybody has a different way of handling certain things, even stress, right? Clients, communication, how to schedule your day, what's important to you. Like, there's so many different things that you can do. You can do an open house, you can do YouTube videos, you can reach out to past clients, you can go network. There's so many different ways of how to attract clients and leads, and everybody does it differently, right? Based on what their interests and skills are.
Right.
I danced around a little bit because I wanted to experience how different offices are doing their business, just in general, how they support their agents.
All right, you weren't doing research now. You were.
I saw right away what I like and what I don't like.
Right.
And that's why I was dancing, because as soon as I didn't like something, and maybe some people were not the perfect match, right? Sometimes it's the people that you work with, and I mean, most people are very professional. Well, I didn't feel the support with some of the brokerages that I'm receiving right now.
With your worldly background, Engel and Volkers seems to be like the perfect fit.
Yeah, that's what I
thought. From that standpoint. But I mean, did you have a focus, when you first started, that, as I mentioned earlier, your average sale is pretty high. Did you, in the clientele, were you actually kind of had this vision and focus on that right away up front? Or is that something that has developed as you've been in real estate? That you're not that you don't handle $250,000, but your clientele that you are attracting and you are, resonating with is at the higher level. Was that something you've worked to, or is that a vision that you had kind of from the start?
I mean, I think every agent wants to sell $1 million home or above, but I wasn't really focused on that as much. It was like a natural getting into it, because I lived in Nocatee and the prices went up in Nocatee, and even at some point I think it was like 500,000, then it increased to 750, then at 800, now it's $1 million.
Yeah,
because the home prices have increased dramatically over the past few years. And I think I was just maybe lucky, or it just naturally evolved to this state of being, but I was not really focused, like I'm going to sell only $1 million homes or nothing.
Right.
My dad, in fact, actually had several investment homes, like close to 10 in the Jacksonville area, and I helped him sell those. They were like all $80,000, $100,000 homes.
Right.
And I was not paid. I just helped my dad sell them. But what I'm trying to say is, like, I would sell any home. It doesn't have to be $1 million home.
It's just that's where you progress to, and
It
obviously
just
you're
happened
working
naturally.
in your backyard
Yeah.
basically from you there. But from the going back to the brokerage, moving from the different brokerages, I think it's important again when an agent selects their brokerage. At that moment in time, that broker or whoever the leader is adding value. You're like, oh, there's a lot of value there. I want to go there. You go there, and then maybe you're there for a period of time and realize that person is either, falls off. Basically, they're no longer adding the value. Because I think the challenge for every broker in town is to consistently be adding value. And they got to stay out in front. If they're not out in front of their people all the time, then the agents say, you're no longer adding value. Let me go look over here.
I was with EXP for 3 years, and I actually loved it. I think they have a really good, solid process in place. They have an 80-20 cap, and to 80-20 split with a $16,000 cap, and I always capped, which means like after the cap, you get to keep 100% of your commission.
Right.
And I was there for 3 years. I loved it. Everything was virtual though, and I didn't feel like I had a team. I didn't have a local broker that I could call. I really felt like I was working by myself on a lonely island.
On an island, that's the term.
So,
we talk about that a lot.
I really missed that. I missed the collaboration and like brainstorming. Not that I needed it, but I just wanted to collaborate with other fellow agents and a broker and go to a training or a meeting and just be part of a team. I really missed that. And then when I realized that one of my fellow agents actually from EXP moved to Engel Völkers First Coast, I started like, why am I not joining? Because it seems like all the experienced agents are there. And Corey is a great broker. I hear only great things about him. He's really super successful, and he's just amazing. Everybody will say that to you.
What would you, let's say, what would you, if one or two things that you think is that maybe you might not get at every Engel and Volkers, but because of Corey's influence or the people he's put around there that gives that little edge to Engel Völkers First Coast.
We were talking a lot about being prepared and being professional and being super not just on time, but on top of things, right? And that's Corey. Like he brings such a professionalism to this business where the way, how he presents himself and how he appears in meetings, like we have several meetings every week, and training is amazing. How he communicates to us, how he motivates us. He's a ex-NFL player, football player.
Yeah.
So
he's been on the show. He was, I want to say episode 30. I'm not,
He is so motivational and so professional. Like he motivates us, right? It's like to go out there in the field and just go and kill the deals, get the deals done. I was able to, almost triple my sales volume just by joining Engel and Völkers First Coast.
What do you think was the linchpin there? What was it?
I just took it more serious, I guess. Just joining him the very first time.
Being surrounded by others that are at a high level?
The very first time I met Corey for an interview, I just wanted to pick his brain and see whether I wanted to join. He was already prepared. He already had an agreement drafted with my name on it. And he just said, if you want to join, he already obviously looked up my numbers and everything. He was prepared. Yeah. He's like, here's where you need to sign. And I signed right in front of him. I didn't have to think about it because I saw how professional he was. He had a big screen up. He was showing me all his Google apps, all the software that they're using, all the training that they have, all the different apps that they're using. I was just blown away. I was like, wow, like I haven't seen anything like this at any other brokerage. Technology is so important. And that's another very big part of like, he's on top of everything, like I said, technology, processes, systems, training, communication, motivation. And on top of it, all the senior, more experienced realtors work there. So when you go to those meetings, you get to meet them. I had several lunches with them, and you just help each other. You pick each other's brain. You share best practices.
Well, do you find yourself talking, and every time I have someone from Engel Völkers on, there comes a point in everyone's real estate career, there's some brokerages that are really good at bringing in new people. There's a point, though, where you're at your career, it's like, okay, I need to go get my master's degree, right? I mean, you need to start talking to people about that, not 101 courses. You need to be talking about master level courses. And that's the kind of conversations you're having. You're having master level real estate conversations because everyone around you there is producing at a high level. Again,
I don't mind sharing information, like my personal experience with junior, which I've done several times when I'm being approached, by other agents. Even some of my clients got the real estate license and wanted to learn, and some of the sons of my clients wanted to get the real estate, or daughters wanted to get the real estate license and reached out to me for a free consultation over the phone, whatever, over coffee. Again, I'm always happy to help, but how I grow is by learning from the best. So I like to go out and buy them a coffee or a lunch and just pick their brain and learn from their experience, and ask them to share best practices. That's how I learn. That's how I grow. And I think that's how you can become a better version of yourself. It's just by really
it's the five people you surround yourself, being the fifth person or the sixth person.
You don't want to be the smartest in the room.
Exactly. All right, I prepped you a little bit for this segment. We're going to talk about grit, and I always bring up Angela Duckworth because I think I really think real estate agents exemplify grit quite a bit, because I'm sure your psychology degree has come in handy sometimes at 8-9 o'clock in the evening. You're probably saving some marriages, amongst other challenges. You guys get those phone calls that aren't always about, hey, we're negotiating. No, it's like, hey, yes, this is the right house for you, or you're doing the right thing. You're doing your psychological analysis on them, but everything hasn't been just sunshine and roses for you. In life throws us curveballs all the time too. So, but I want to start and you've probably already mentioned why you love, but I'll have you just summarize it, because you've talked about a lot of things that you enjoy doing. But what is the talking about our LLC of grit? What is it that you love about real estate?
Again, working with clients and just meeting different people and staying in touch with them. A lot of my clients actually became my really good friends. And I don't even look at age. Like, I have a lot of older friends. For example, because you were just saying saving marriages, and I didn't even prepare this to say, but I was thinking about this couple that literally I met them at an open house. They came from North Carolina, and they ended up buying 4 homes with me. Why? In the time frame of 3 years. So they
moved into each one?
No, they could not live with each other and not without each other. So first they bought a house together. Then we sold their house because she wanted to buy her own townhome and he bought his own house. And then they actually built a new home that they're living in together right now. So I guess that's 5 transactions.
And, well, you sold. Yeah,
they're still together.
Yeah.
Thankfully. I've been part of every transaction, and sometimes you experience people like they're sweet as they can be, but they just sometimes it's I don't know.
Well, sometimes sometimes we get too much information.
Yeah,
right?
Sometimes we do, but sometimes we have to be the mediator, right?
Yeah.
Like between the two couples, just to make sure it works and not necessarily take any sides, but kind of help them find the common ground. And yes, to your point, sometimes they don't agree, right, on the house or the price or whatever. So you just really need to use
Isn't it usually one has a problem with the price, and the other one, it is one is more
analytical.
We'll pay anything for that house. Yeah. The other one's looking at the dollar amount.
Yes. It happens all the time.
Yeah. I bring up laughter because I feel in our life we go through certain things, certain times when we're down and out, and just sometimes you feel like, the boxing analogy, throwing in the towel, right? To give up. Have you ever felt really, with a transaction, or maybe sometimes we have bad weeks, all of a sudden, hey, 2 deals were turned down, whatever, this other deal fell apart, but really something that just really got you down, that today you probably tell a story in cocktail parties, but you really, have that smile like you have right now. You just laugh about thinking about that time where you're like, man, I was about to quit real estate.
Yeah.
I thought that really just threw me off.
At the very beginning, I want to say it was like 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I can't remember. I had a client who called me, who wanted to find a rental. And I like helping people. So sometimes I don't usually take on rentals, but sometimes I do, just to help out, just to help them, because those might be still future clients who will end up buying a house. So I actually convinced him to buy a home. And then, so we were on the phone a lot of times. He was looking for a rental, and it's like, I'm happy to help you, but think about it. It's a great time to buy and stuff like that. Sending him some options and convinced him to actually buy a house. Well, with a decision to buy a house. But the pain point here is that he didn't buy a house with me.
Oh.
He ended up buying a house with his sister's realtor, who just happened to send him a link. And when I called...
After you spent all this time with him.
I called him the following week and was like, so how is it going? Like, are we, have we made any selections? Do you want to see any homes? He's like, oh, I'm actually under contract. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm under contract with a house. Like, what happened? So, long story short, yes, sometimes
that's a gut punch for any real estate agent. Yeah.
Sometimes buyers just choose other realtors for whatever reason.
Yeah.
My pain point during that time was like, probably I should have followed up much faster. So you're learning, right? You're learning with every experience. Nobody's perfect, especially at the beginning of your career. You have to be fast. Time is always of the essence. Don't wait and think that they will call you. You need to follow up, right? And have your buyer representation agreement in place. That's what I also learned, especially now.
Yes.
You want to have them under contract. Not that it means a lot. I mean, they can still choose somebody else if they wanted to. But just having them sign a document, kind of like committing to work with you, I think is super important these days.
Were you doing any, obviously the past August is, required now that you do, were you doing any sort of agreement before, or?
Not really with buyers, to be honest with you.
Because nobody really was training on it. If you did it, it might have been a broker's, decision. If you ever worked in that brokerage,
it was not a requirement.
No one was really thinking about it. But the opinion of a lot of people that they feel that they're actually doing better now because of that requirement. Would you agree?
I think it's important to have a buyer representation agreement in place, because it's more of a commitment, right? Even though the buyer still can choose to work with someone else, presenting them a piece of paper that they need to sign, committing them to work with you for the next 3 months, 6 months, whatever you decide on. Having the commission also laid out, right? Like, how much are you going to pay me if I find you the perfect home and assist you, not just finding the home, but assist you throughout the process, right? With the paperwork, negotiation, and so on. Touring the homes. I mean, we're investing a lot of time and effort from our standpoint, right, with the buyers as well, not just with the sellers. So we want to be compensated, obviously, if the sellers are not paying our commission. But in the event that the sellers will pay us the commission, then we can, give them a cut.
I always like to make the point. I think it's what it's made people do is slow down, and now you have to sit down with them and explain to them all the things that you're going to do. I know there's some people that have these like lists of, almost 200 things that possibly they might have to do during your entire process. Because I think we were going through the transactions and not explaining what was going on and doing a lot. I think, as a loan officer, as a real estate agent, you do a lot of things for them that you don't actually interact with them with. Yeah. You don't say, hey, I'm out here. I spent 3 hours last night working up comps or strategizing on how we should sell your house. Yeah. They don't realize you spent that time.
A lot of paperwork, marketing, phone calls, obtaining information, sharing information that's valuable to them. You're taking this more seriously, right? With having these agreements in place, it's more like a business, right? You're treating it more professional from both sides. Like you're asking the buyers to commit to work with you, not just, I'm not like a friend who will be just showing you a couple of homes this weekend for free. And then you can go and buy the house with another realtor.
Yeah. Yeah. If
So
you
let's
haven't had
treat this
another,
as a business transaction.
if you haven't had that happen to you, you haven't been in the business long enough, right?
Right.
I mean,
I think everybody's experiencing this at some point.
it's kind of like, I guess, like breaking up or something. It's like, there's nothing more heart wrenching than spend the time with them. Think hey, I'm
Yeah.
going to really help this person, and you're pouring your energy into them, and then like, what? You know, how did this happen like in less than a week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Consistency. What do you think, and this may have developed for you, but what are you doing today? Just something that you do consistently that you feel is a must do in your business that keeps it moving along.
Follow up with clients for sure. I have a big whiteboard right in front of my desk, and I always put my VIP names on that whiteboard. We obviously have a CRM. Every agent should have a solid CRM, client relationship management database in place, where you automatically, like some of the processes automated, where you send out emails, informative emails, sharing some valuable information like market stats, how's the market doing, right? Or happy birthday messages or happy anniversary messages or Merry Christmas or Happy Thanksgiving,
Right.
whatever message that might be, you send those automated messages. But you also want to follow up directly, and especially with those clients that those hot clients, if you will, that are categorized as hot because you know they're like looking for homes, they want to buy or they want to sell this year. You want to follow up with them quite frequently and ask them if they needed any help, if they have any questions, just making sure they know that you're there for them, right? So following up with clients is super important. And sometimes not just about business, also on a personal level, like how are you doing? Like I've heard your daughter's birthday or she just graduated school or whatever the situation might be, just always be present.
Do you have a goal like each day? Do you break it down like, hey, I want to make 10 phone calls today on doing this type of follow-up?
You know, they teach us all to have those numbers and track the numbers. And yes, I have a plan on the like on a monthly, not on a weekly basis. I like on a monthly how many transactions I want to close on, and but I'm on the phone all the time, and maybe I shouldn't be, but even if I drive somewhere,
you take
I
advantage of your drive time
yes,
as long as you're doing it handless or whatever,
Right.
hands-free. Yeah, that's the term.
Exactly. No, you have to follow up with your sphere, your past clients, your potential new clients, neighbors, friends, whoever that might be. Just if you know that they're looking to buy or sell soon, you need to be present. That's like number one, I think.
Yeah. Your business today, from when you started, how you've developed it. We just talked about a little bit of your communication. What is your with your sphere? Imagine you were in the corporate world, you jump over to real estate. What did you do to reach out to everyone and let them know, or did you let them know that, hey, I'm now
I use social media, so I actually started making videos during my open houses at the very beginning, like 2019. 2018 is when I got my license. 2019 is when I started making videos. I was at an open house, and whenever people would not show up, I was already dressed up. I already had my makeup and hair done. I had my phone with me. I just, put together a script. That was before ChatGPT. I put my own script together, and I recorded videos. And then I would go home and I would ask my 17-year-old son to either edit them for me, or I did it myself because he taught me how to do it.
And now AI's even better at it.
It's so much easier.
Yeah.
And everybody should be doing videos. That's a super, important topic as well.
Go on again. You're in front of your even the new agents that are out there. You're in a room with people who are just getting started, maybe the less than a year or whatever. Because I think there are a lot of I won't say more experienced agents that have established business where video wasn't as important, but they've been in the business so long that their database, their sphere of influence, they've been doing all the follow-ups with their past clients that they don't really need to attract new clients. But if you're just getting started in the business, explain how you would explain to that new group the importance of video, and how do you do the video? What do you think? What do you think that you want that
Mm-hmm.
the person watching it to get out of it?
Providing valuable information. It's not just about putting yourself in front of a camera and looking good. It's you really need to provide very informative, you know, data to your potential clients, right? Like, why should they move to Nocatee? Why should they move to St. Johns County, Florida? What, you know, giving them pros and cons, not just the positive, but also the negative, right? Be the local expert, especially for the out-of-state clients. It's like you are the eyes, their eyes, potentially their eyes and ears on the ground. You can go to, let's say they decide to build a house. You can go to that specific location. You can look at the lot. You can look at the construction. That's what I've done. I have a lot of out-of-state clients from New York, like during COVID years. I had like through my YouTube videos, I got a lot of phone calls from people from New York who wanted to relocate to Florida. And I was their eyes and ears on the ground. I was every single week on their lot, following the construction, taking videos, even drone footage.
And you're not just sharing it with them, you're putting it on.
I put it on YouTube. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is actually a good point because I was standing on how I attracted a new client is through YouTube videos, through one specific YouTube video where I was standing on his lot, showing the neighboring lot of my other client. So then he saw this was like a huge coincidence. He saw the video online. It's like, you are standing on the lot that I want to buy. And I connected with him, and then I was part of the transaction. So he ended up being my client.
Well, I preach to everyone, and I don't, YouTube, there's two places where I think, and I can generalize, 99% of real estate agents is an open space, and that's LinkedIn and YouTube. And if you're shooting Instagram Reels, you should be dropping every one of those into YouTube. As to me, because YouTube is like a library, because you don't know that whether that person's watching it tomorrow, right after you posted it, or they watch it 3 years from now. If they're going in and they're searching 20 Mile in Nocatee, and it was a video you did 3 years ago, they don't even look down to see when you shot the video. They just see you and go, oh, she sells in 20 Miles. She knows about it. Let me call her.
My most watched video is from actually 7 years ago, why you should move to St. Johns County, Florida. And it's horrible, the video. But I have over 6,500 views on it. So it's like, good.
Yeah. Does that tell you how many people are searching St. John's, right?
Yeah.
And they want, because I mean, how many of us have moved into a neighborhood? And I've been at our house since 2009, and we didn't even know what a CDD was, right? We just, hey, the house, good price, but whatever. Okay, those are the fees, and the CDDs in you just look at the tax bill. Okay, yeah, tax bill's acceptable. You don't realize that a third of that is actually your CDD fee.
Correct.
You're looking, and until you move into that neighborhood, and then realize, oh, these things are going on. This is how things function. So as a real estate agent, you by putting those things on the video, you are their eyes. They're looking from outside and in. They may come and see the house, but they didn't drive the neighborhood. They didn't go and say, how far is it to the grocery store or to the school or whatever. And those things are just all the things that those people are sitting online at home. When it's snowing out in New York, they're online watching YouTube videos.
And they don't know anybody who lives here potentially. I mean, some people have friends and families that already live here, and that's how they come here. But knowing a local person who has lived here for several years, who knows the area, who can talk about pros and cons, right? They start trusting you, and you start becoming their friend. And that's why I love this business. Again, not just being part of the transaction, finding them a home, and that's it, and helping them with paperwork. It would be very boring, actually. It's building those meaningful relationships and helping them find this beautiful home of their dreams. And even, yes, after COVID, a lot of people made a lot of money in real estate in this area, including myself. Because by buying real estate and lower, right, at a lower price, and then selling it because the prices went up so much, I was also able to help them invest in real estate, not just buy a home, but also make a lot of money once they sold it.
You bring up, because I saw that in the extra stuff that you sent me there, telling me a little about, you bought and held on to a couple homes, rented them out. So now you have that experience of investment, being a landlord, obviously benefiting from the appreciation on the home. How is that, again, talking to that agents that are listening to the show right now, the importance that you need to graduate to that stage where you or yourself is investing in real estate, because now you have that experience, you have that knowledge now to be able to interact with someone who coming, whether they're from the area or not, but hey, I want to talk about investing in real estate. Well, if you've never bought your own investment property, you really can't share with confidence the experience.
I lived in Nocatee since 2016, so not only we built our first house with ICI, then we decided to keep it after living in it for 3 years, moving to 20 Mile, build a house with Providence, lived there for 3 years, build a pool. Then I decided to buy an investment home in West End. Never lived there, just rented it out. And then we sold the 20 Mile house after 3 years for double, and ended up building our dream home with Dosty Homes in Crosswater, Nocatee. So I built 4 homes with 4 different builders.
That's an experience right there.
And sold one. Right. Well, meanwhile, I just sold my investment home, actually. Sold 2 now, but I rented 2 of them for a long time. So yes, to your point, I have experience building a house with 4 different builders, investing in real estate, being a landlord myself, right, renting 2 of my properties, and obviously buying, selling. So speaking about my own experience with clients, sometimes I get the same reaction. They're like, wow, really? Like, I wish I would have bought the house at that time and sold the house at that time when you did it.
Yeah. Well, now they want to follow you and interact. What was your experience? Because now you're sharing, and your credibility scale goes through the roof. 4 different builders. We were talking on the last show with Carrie and Terry with Premier Homes, and the topic came up of having a real estate representative even when you're buying new construction. And my response was, it's actually even more important. Would you agree to that just because it's a builder and you walk through and see the model, you need someone? And now I think we both would agree there are some agents that check out. They just hand them over to the person in the model, the builder's representative, sales agent. They just hand them over, and they just walk away and don't pay attention to what's going on. How important, you've experienced this personally 4 times in a row. How are you working with clients that you are now putting in some new construction and keeping tabs on the builder?
I highly recommend working with a realtor because, again, they have this neutral perspective, right? When you want to make a decision, like which builder do you want to go with? Like there's not 4. There's a lot more. Like I don't even know, 6, 7 different realtors.
Major builders in the area.
There's a lot more builders in this area. You need to know which builder to go with, right? Some are good with communication, for example, right? Speaking of communication, some are not. And when you build a house, you need to do a third-party inspection. I always recommend my clients to do a third-party inspection at slab, pre-drywall, and then before closing. It's like when you go to work with a builder directly, they're not going to tell you to do a third-party inspection because they have their own inspectors building their homes, and the county sends their inspectors, so they're good. But especially after COVID, they had the demand was so high. They had so many homes to build, so they were cutting corners, and there was a lot of issues with building.
Quality control was not good.
Quality was not the same as it used to be. So all the high-end builders, without naming any specific builders, used to have started having a lot of issues with their clients, a lot of complaints, a lot of warranty issues that came up. So third-party inspection became a super important thing.
Right.
So I would always, especially if you spend over $750,000, even $500,000, I always recommend my clients to do a third-party inspection at those 3 different stages of building a home. And then again, as a realtor, the buyers don't pay you the commission. The builders do. And when the buyers feel like, oh, it's going to come off my price, like, no, they have a different fund from where they're paying realtors. So you don't have to worry about that. They like to work with realtors, the builders. We have a really good relationship with the builders.
You do now. I've worked for a major builder from the lending side.
Yeah.
So I know there was a period of time where the builders didn't even want to see you.
Really?
Yes.
They give us even like bonus
Well,
commissions
today
now.
they do because their inventory is growing so much, and the bonus, and what I see some of them now sponsoring different events. I'm like, you guys didn't even want to even talk to them prior to COVID. I mean, that's they're really bringing a real estate. Oh, I got but the point being, and you brought up the other point. The real estate agent, a good real estate agent, the agents, if those are listening, the agents that you hear on the show, these are the ones. There has been, I've heard the horror shows of, AC lines that weren't put in the slab, and they realize it after the house is almost built. So now they're putting a pump in, the AC drip up to the second floor and out. And like, okay, so what if that pump fails? That's because they didn't have it inspected, and they didn't put, they can't report a slab.
Right.
Bathrooms being done where after they measured, realized, the toilet's too close to the tub. You can't fit it in here. Break open the slab and now move it over. Where if someone was pre-inspecting that prior to that slab being poured and those things being laid in there, they would have noticed that. Because I personally don't understand why the builder themselves do not hire the third party inspector to come in and inspect their crews, that those things are, because the amount of money that is blown. I mean, Doge, right? Elon Musk would rip these builders all up because I'm wondering, the warranty stuff. How could you taper your expense on the warranty, or they're just crossing their fingers that no one calls them out on it? And that's where the consumer has to be, buyer beware, right? The importance, I think.
Super important.
Have you had a challenge with when you've gone into the builder and your customer says, yes, Veronica, I think you're right. We should have an inspection done, and you go and say,
no issues.
No issues.
No, they take care of their clients because obviously they want to sell homes and they want their clients to be happy.
But you make it up front. You tell them, like, we're signing this contract, but we're having an inspector.
As long as the inspector is licensed and insured, that's what they want to see. They let them let him in, the crew in. They do the inspection. We provide a detailed report of all the things, even if it's cosmetical things that need to be addressed. And the builders, for the most part, are usually very good in addressing those items. It actually, to your point, it helps them. It's almost like a checklist. Okay, so we didn't do this because a lot of workers that build the homes are not even from this country. They don't speak English very fluently. Sometimes it comes to communication
they're not custom builders. They're building tract homes for a lot of these.
But what I'm saying is, like, I've heard that there's a communication issue sometimes, right, between people who build the homes and the supervisors and the owners, the builders, actually. So they're, again, based on communication, so important is, I don't know why it happens, but it does happen. And especially when the demand is high and they're cutting corners and cutting costs, there will be mistakes made.
Well, I told the story in the last show. I'm going to tell it literally where the house was purchased. It was going to face a certain way because of the retention pond and all this other stuff, the view, and the neighboring house being next door. And when they got there, they'd actually reversed the house and poured the slab the different way, so the windows looked at the side of the house next to him versus the retention pond, which was on the other side. I mean, this stuff happens. The garage put on the wrong side.
And imagine you have an out-of-state buyer who's not local, so you have a realtor who can possibly see those things because we're local ears and eyes.
Having the real estate agent is going to go to battle, and hopefully maybe if you decide to get out of that deal, you got someone that's going to and has the passion and whereabouts to battle for you is important. And then obviously, like I said, if that was inspected and they went out there and said, hold on a second, this thing is all, they could have reversed that before they poured the slab with little expense. But as soon as that slab's down, it's down. They're not going to tear. But that stuff happens in the new construction.
100%.
So the importance of having that there. There was one, because I saw in the additional information you gave me. Where is it? I saw here, and I had a question here. You have networking is key. And one of the things you have on here is community involvement. So I imagine you put that because there's stuff that you are involved in. Do you want to share some of those things with us?
Sure. So just before I delve into this, you mentioned the realtors before YouTube, right? They were successful building their clientele and their sphere. It's because they were involved in the community a lot more.
Yeah.
They were networking a lot more. They were out and about a
natural,
lot more.
or I would say natural,
Naturally.
or the it's not natural is the word I want, but when someone says networking, they're actually out there shaking hands and kissing babies like politicians,
yes,
right?
Yes, they're organically. They're out there on the field. They're the extroverts who like to communicate and talk to everybody and everyone.
Right.
So, so I think community involvement is super important. Even when I was working in corporate, I was, for example, at 1 year I was the chair of Women of Wall Street. So it was like, granted, it was like an internal community, like a steering committee, like within the bank. But we had a lot of volunteering events where we would go and volunteer in Jacksonville downtown, whether we were feeding the homeless or painting, certain shelters, whatever. We went out there and we were working and helping the community. And
Right.
I think being out in the community and volunteering and doing something different, not necessarily real estate or you're related to your business, is super important because you're giving back, right? You're giving back to the community, which is, again, has nothing to do with the business itself, but it's super important that we all do that.
Well, the mindset, someone coming into the business, and I think a lot of people have this, let's say mindset, just they want an immediate return. Like, hey, I do a video. Did you get any leads off of that? No. Did you have to do thousands of videos? You got to, in the podcast world, you have to do hundreds of podcasts before you start really gaining traction. And obviously the word consistency we used earlier. But your community involvement, you don't know what day you might be doing something small, or going out as a group. You're not really working a whole lot, but people are getting to know you. You're talking, you're interacting. You might be doing that for years before you get the first someone that says, "Hey, I met Veronica. We were doing this charity event. She's a realtor. You should call her."
Absolutely. Yeah, you'd never know where the opportunity comes up. And again, you're not doing it necessarily to get business. You just want to be out there. You want to connect with your community. You want to build new relationships because you never know who you're going to meet at those events. And even if you don't meet anybody at those events, sometimes you take a picture or two, you post it on Facebook or take a video on YouTube, whatever it might be. Somebody else sees it on social media. Boom, you could have a lead, right? So it definitely helps business, for your business to grow. But at the same time, even if it doesn't, you're still doing something good for the community. And I believe in good karma. So when you do something good for other people, it comes back to you naturally.
Right. Do you, because you've worked for numerous brokerages and you've met a lot of different agents coming from a lot of different things. I think my perception of Engel and Volkers is there's a very similar mindset to a lot of the agents out there, success mindset. So I think that's Corey's created that culture, and the people have brought in. So where a lot of other brokerages, I would say there's a mixture, potpourri of different mindsets, and people coming from different directions. Some agents doing it, some agents not. That sort of thing going on. But looking at the real estate industry, or being a real estate agent as a career, you have to look at it as long term. You have to make these investments, doing the videos, putting them on YouTube, whatever, weekly, daily, whatever you're doing. You got to be consistent. Be consistent in your community involvement. You may not see any fruit, and with social media, you may not know that they came from social media. They may have met you at that community event 3 years ago, but because they're seeing your social media, and now they go, "Oh, hey, we're ready to buy a house." Well, I see Veronica every other day on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's call her. But that you may think it came from meeting them at the thing 3 years ago, but it was actually your social media that actually kept them top of mind. Yeah. But what I want to get to is, if you were, again, talking to newer agents, to be consistent and look at it as a long-term a marathon versus just a monthly or 90-day sprint all the time, which I think a lot of agents are in.
Tracy, do you like gardening?
No, I don't.
I do. Sometimes for me, it's like mental decompression, just being out in nature, getting your fingers dirty and just doing some gardening and planting. I see it as a business. Same thing with related to a business. Like you plant something. Like
I understand the analogy.
The seeds in your ground. You have to be patient. You have to water it. You have to make sure you pick the weeds, right? You give it whatever nutrients, depending on what you're planting, whether it's herbs, veggies, or trees. And you just need to be patient and constantly give water and love and air and sunshine, whatever the plant needs to grow, right? In the business, it's the same thing. You have to be patient and you have to give it attention. Obviously, you can't just ignore it. You have to be patient and you have to give that, like you said, whether it's YouTube videos, whether it's open houses, whether it's marketing and social media, right? Community involvement, networking events, following up with your clients, your sphere, your neighbors, and just walking the dog and talking to your neighbors. You just have to do it. You have to do it, and it will grow, just like the plant in the garden.
Yeah. And sometimes you never know where the actual person came from a YouTube video that you did 3 years ago. Yeah.
For example, I am also a partner of education at Pine Island Academy and Palm Valley Academy, those two schools in Nocatee, K through 8, and I have the banner on the fence already for 3 years. Obviously paying
donation
a donation to the school and then participating in various events. I honestly don't even know if I had any leads from that, but I don't really see it like this, right? You asked about community involvement. That's sort of like a community involvement too, because I am participating in those school events. I have this table set up. I have Popeyes or giveaways for the kiddos. I have certain games prepared at the table where the kids come to me with their parents, and then they start playing those games. I give them little toys, a little gifts like Popeyes.
Yeah.
And I don't know in the end, does it matter? Am I getting business from it? Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not today, but eventually at some point, it probably will help.
And that's a simple one for you because your kids are there.
Kids are going to
if
school,
you're not, if your kids are in school and you're not, and especially all the sports they're playing and so forth, to be actively in everyone that's within reach of you, know that you do real estate. And know Erica Harding, I always joke about her. We were talking about a couple shows ago. She's at the ball field because I think she's got 2 or 3 boys or whatever. Yeah. She's wearing something that says something about real estate.
See?
So everyone's sitting there. She may be just sitting there watching the game, but everyone walks by and sees her there every game. They know that she's a real estate agent.
And that's the key, right? It's wherever you go, whoever you talk to, that's part of the business. You need to let them know that you are in real estate. Every time they see your face, whether it's on social media or in person, they need to associate you with real estate.
Real estate.
That's how you grow your business.
All right. My last question is 3 things that every agent will be doing. We'll take that as number 1. They should be letting everyone know what they do consistently. Because would you agree right now there's a lot of pent-up sellers and there's a lot of pent-up buyers? They're waiting for the interest rates to drop over here. And there's a lot of, you got buyers, sellers over here going, I got my 3% interest rate right now. We really want to move, but it doesn't make sense because I'm going to take on this higher mortgage and have a smaller house or whatever. Type of thing. So there's a lot of pent-up people on both sides. And who's out in front of those people the most right now when the dam breaks is going to reap the benefits. So staying top of mind, so being consistent on that, even though you may not be getting that immediate fruit right now. But what are 2 other things you think real estate agents should be doing right now with this current market?
Again, follow up with clients and anybody who knows you or who you know who might be interested in selling or buying, because to your point, sellers, the dam is almost breaking. We're in the spring season, right? 2025. A lot of sellers already want to list their home, but they want to list it high. And the buyers want to buy, but they're waiting for the interest rate to drop. It dropped a little bit, but not enough.
And it gets near 6%, 5.875. I think we're going to run.
I know. Everybody's waiting for it, and I hope it's going to happen this year. Let's stay positive and hope it's going to happen. But it is the biggest challenge. So continue doing open houses. I had great success with open houses. YouTube videos. Create valuable information and put it out there.
Do you have to be an expert at it?
In YouTube videos?
Yeah.
No, because they say like just do them.
The more raw you are, the more
videos, just post them. Don't worry about how you look. Don't worry about what you say. Just make them and post them. Make them and post them. After 100, you naturally become better and better. You naturally become more comfortable in front of the camera, and you naturally start talking about topics that are more important.
Yeah.
So I think you just do it. Don't procrastinate.
Don't
wait.
That's what Mr. Beast says. I know Mr. Beast is Mr. YouTube, and he says shoot 100 videos, then go back and look at where you're at, because just as the podcast, whether it's my questions or I would listen a lot, especially my episodes, and how I was pausing or what I was saying. So you're always constantly correcting and getting better, but people, they expect you. If the more natural you are, the more they resonate with you. Say, "Oh, that's a real person." Oh, they said they paused, or they mispronounced that word, or whatever. That's natural. People do that all the time.
We're all the biggest critics of ourselves, right? But in the end, again, it's not about what you say and how you say it. It's more about what you say and like what kind of value are you giving to the audience. What do they need to know? And that's what they will remember. And they will also remember how you make them feel. Not necessarily what you say. That's what they say, right? It's like, so be funny, be natural, like you to your point, right? Not
be real.
Don't read,
be authentic.
Don't
that's the
read
word, right?
from a script. Yeah.
The script can give you a good idea if you want to, but if you sit there, because you can see people's eyes if they're looking at a teleprompter, unless they're like at the news, so you don't even know they're on a teleprompter, because they're pros, but the teleprompter's so far back with such big print, so they can be looking at the camera and see
People
everything.
notice it right
versus
away.
we're right here, and like you can see their eyes are looking down and not looking in the camera. Look like you're looking right at somebody as if they're actually standing there in front of you, and look them right in the eyes. Means a lot. So I appreciate you coming on.
Sure.
This was a great show.
I hope
Is there
this
anything
was
else?
valuable.
Was there anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this.
I appreciate
I want to do more of these type of
this is a great. I like to do updates every once in a while, but something's happened. You want to come in and tell a story? Come in and we'll shoot a story.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, appreciate it.